Planning for your next trip? Elevate your travel style with Quince. Quince has all the jet-setting essentials you'll want for your next getaway, like European linen, premium luggage options, buttery soft Italian leather bags, and so much more. And it's all priced at 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Plus, Quince only works with factories that use safe and ethical manufacturing practices. Pack your bags with high-quality essentials you'll be wearing for vacations to come with Quince. Go to quince.com/trip for free shipping and 365-day returns.
Hi, I'm Daniel, founder of Pretty Litter. Did you know cats tend to hide symptoms of sickness and pain? I learned this the hard way after losing my cat, Gingy. So I created Pretty Litter, a health monitoring litter that helps detect early signs of illness by changing colors, saving you money and potentially your cat's life. Pretty Litter is veterinarian developed, and it's the easiest way to keep tabs on your fur baby's health right at home.
Go to prettylitter.com and use code ACAST for 20% off your first order and a free cat toy. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details.
Since 2013, Bombas has donated over 100 million socks, underwear, and T-shirts to those facing homelessness. If we counted those on air, this ad would last over 1,157 days. But if we counted the time it takes to make a donation possible, it would take just a few clicks. Because every time you make a purchase, Bombas donates an item to someone who needs it.
Go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/ACAST, code ACAST.
Hello, and welcome to Voices from the Battlefield, part of Waterloo Remembered. Our next eyewitness account comes from the Prince of Orange and is read by Professor Beatrice de Graaf from the University of Utrecht.
Today I'm going to read a letter that the Dutch Crown Prince William wrote to his parents on the eve of the battle. So Crown Prince William, he was something of a celebrity already in 1814, 1815. He stood out for his courage, his good nature and posture, not just in the Netherlands, but also in Prussia and Britain. And in Britain, he was nicknamed Slender Billy, so people knew who he was. He was born in 1792 in The Hague. He was the eldest son of King William I of the Netherlands, and his mother was Queen Wilhelmine of Prussia. And his maternal grandfather was King Frederick William II of Prussia. So he came from a most notable line of ancestors. When he was 2, however, he and his family fled to England after French troops defeated the army of the United Provinces. He spent his youth at the military academy in Berlin, and afterwards he went to Oxford to study civil law, and he hated it there. He made life a little bit better by having a string of relationships with both men and women, which later on led him to be blackmailed, but that's only later on. In 1811, he was only 19-years-old, and he became aide-de-camp of the first Duke of Wellington, Arthur Wellesley, and he fought with the Duke in the campaigns of the Peninsular War. He was made a colonel, and then in 1813 a major general. And when his father became the sovereign prince of the newly erected United Kingdom of the Netherlands, he went back to the Netherlands in 1813. And he succeeded in the Netherlands, Sir Thomas Graham, as the highest ranking officer of the British forces stationed here. In between, it's also nice to remark, he was briefly engaged to Princess Charlotte of Wales, the only child of the Prince Regent, but that was broken off again quite soon afterwards because Charlotte's mother was against the marriage and Charlotte herself didn't like Slender Willy so much. So we are now in 1814. He was Lieutenant General in the British Army, senior officer of the Allied Army in the Low Countries when Napoleon escaped from Elba. There was some fuzzle about the command of the Dutch troops, but in the end his father, King William I, agreed to relinquish, after some pushing, it needs to be said, his father relinquished command to the Duke of Wellington, and then the Duke of Wellington made the Crown Prince, William, the commander of the 1st Allied Corps. And on the 15th of June, Prince William, he was ordered to move the Dutch troops. He, however, ignored his orders and he positioned his troops at Quatre Bras to stop the approaching French army. So he went against the orders of Wellington, and this is already an interesting point. With these troops, the Soviet and the Dutch troops, they halted the French army. On the 16th of June, Napoleon defeated the Prussian troops, but he could not surround them because of these troops at Quatre Bras. However, Prince William got a little bit overconfident, and he positioned his troops there in lines without thinking of the oncoming French cavalry, which ran straight over his lines, and many of his men died an unnecessary death. So he was quite brave as a person, but on the other hand, he was quite bad on the strategic level. In the end, the prince got shot right through the shoulder at Waterloo and was carried off the stage. It was done by the French, but there was a rumor going on that he was shot by his own men to stop him from giving more stupid orders. So we never know, we won't ever know for sure. He was then rushed off to the headquarters in Waterloo and later on to Brussels. And Dutch government gazettes kept the people informed almost every hour on its progress. And right after he's been shot, he writes a letter to his father and his mother. These letters, they are printed, of course, in the Netherlands, but also in the Royal House Archives of the Netherlands, and I've seen them myself. And I'm going to read him in the English translation. He wrote the letter to his parents in French. It was a very multilingual affair, the courts at that time, because they spoke Dutch and French and English and German, but the communication language was mostly French in those days. But I translated into English. It's my translation. And this is the letter that the Crown Prince wrote to his parents in the night, right after he was shot. I start. Victory, victory. My dear parents, we had a magnificent affair today against Napoleon, who came to attack us in our position and in front of the Bois de Saigny. It were my troops that mainly gave everything, to whom we owe the victory. Yet the whole thing was decided by the attack that the Prussians made on the right of the enemy. I was injured by a bullet that went straight through my left shoulder, but it meant nothing. For life and death, forever yours, Guillaume. 2 at night, Brussels. And then a day later, the 20th of June, King William himself responds to his son, and he writes, God has rejoiced us to this day with perfect success and given you the strength to announce it to us in only a few lines. Now you have earned the order of William, the William's order, which you would not have wanted before your conduct gave you the right to do it. So these are very, very interesting lines. It seems that his father somehow blames him a little bit for the very short letter that he wrote to him. And he also comes back at the refusal by the Crown Prince a few weeks earlier, when King William announced the Willem's Order. It's the highest and the oldest Dutch order, the badge of honor, founded at the end of April 1815. And the Crown Prince didn't want to have it because he wanted to earn it first. And now he had earned it with his blood. And his mother also wrote back to her son a little bit earlier than the king. And his mother was Queen Wilhelmina. She was called Mimi, and she was sister to the King of Prussia, Frederick William III, and niece of Frederick the Great. So also coming from an illustrious military line. And she wrote to her son, "Oh, how I wish I was with you in Brussels at the moment, my dearest William." To her regret, she could not be with him right away, but only 3 days later, she arrived in Brussels on June 22 and gave him all the care personally, which helped him to brighten up. So the interesting thing about these letters is that they're highly personal, and they also convey the sense of intimacy that the Queen Mother had with her son, and it also shows a little bit of the prickiness that already existed between father and son. And it's said that King William was quite jealous of his son. He used the blood that his son spilled on the fields of Flanders to make the stance that the Netherlands rightly belonged into the concert of Europe. Blood was spilled and had earned them their kingdom. On the other hand, he was quite irritated that he himself could not have been there. Both the king and his son, however, were a couple of weeks later, even more aggravated and irritated, because in the account of affairs that was presented throughout Europe, in Britain most notably, but also elsewhere, it was hardly mentioned that it was the Dutch, the Belgian and the Nassauian armies who held the French at bay at Quatre Bras until the British reinforcement arrived on the 16th of June. And the Duke of Wellington, who had made the prince his commander of the first Allied troops, he did not mention the Dutch actions that proved instrumental securing the victory during these final stages of the Battle of Waterloo. And they demanded acknowledgement of their sacrifices, but to no avail. And then they turned to their own society, and all kinds of lieux de mémoire were created, monuments, mounds, all sorts of prints and plates were distributed amongst the population, with pictures of the wounded prince and captured reading, for example, "May you, for Prince William's wounds, O Netherlands, weep and pray, yet had not his blood flowed, you would wear shackles today." So, in the end, Waterloo was very much a founding event for the very newly born Kingdom of the Netherlands. So within the Dutch society, it was indeed sustained and supported by the Dutch population, and Waterloo Day, the 18th of June, remained a national day of commemoration, but also a day of festivities and liberties until the invasion of the Germans in 1940. However, on the international plane, the Dutch and the Belgian engagement in Waterloo was not properly rewarded, as the king and his family and also all the military and historians of the Netherlands felt. I think we discussed this already. William Sibbern published his history of the war in France and Belgium in 1844, and his dismissal of the Dutch and Belgians as deserters stuck and had quite an impact. And only recently there have been more international and critical claims of Waterloo, of which this podcast, obviously, and Zach White's efforts are very important, also to broaden the scope and debunk the myths that have persisted for so long. Obviously, William was not an ordinary soldier, but he fought very brave, he fought very hard, he also fought quite stupid, brave but stupid. He was shot in the end, and his letter is, I think, an quite authentic and nice little memorial of the Battle of Waterloo and the importance it had for the Dutch and for the new Kingdom of the Netherlands. Thank you very much.
That was Professor Beatrice de Graaf from Utrecht University reading the Prince of Orange's letter to his family about the Battle of Waterloo. And Beatrice's latest works are available to order online now. Stay tuned to the Napoleonicist, where more instalments of the Voices from the Battlefield series will be released throughout the day.
Witness history at Roland Garros, where old rivalries meet new talent on the clay battleground. Tennis Channel Plus is your place to watch. Stream every court from your phone or smart TV live in HD. Experience 3 weeks of unparalleled access as the world's top players in tennis face off to see if the veterans maintain their dominance or if a fresh face rises to challenge them. Daily live coverage of the French Open begins Monday, May 20th. Stream it now with Tennis Channel Plus to be there when it happens.
Planning for your next trip? Elevate your travel style with Quince. Quince has all the jet-setting essentials you'll want for your next getaway, like European linen, premium luggage options, buttery soft Italian leather bags, and so much more. And it's all priced at 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Plus, Quince only works with factories that use safe and ethical manufacturing practices. Pack your bags with high-quality essentials you'll be wearing for vacations to come with Quince. Go to quince.com/trip for free shipping and 365-day returns.